Welcome all. Tonight we're doing a short presentation. It typically takes about half an hour, and there will be time for questions. We will be recording this presentation and putting it up on the Harei.org website. So keep that in mind. Feel free to put questions into the chat window. We have a couple of people monitoring the chat window, or unmute. We have a small group, so if you want to unmute and ask a question, we can probably entertain a couple of those as well. There will be time at the end of the presentation for particular questions about your own concerns relative to solar in southern New Hampshire and things you want to discuss. So we look forward to hearing those questions at the end of the presentation. Before we get going here, this is the Harei Introduction to Solar Power for Southern New Hampshire, and the map in the background on this first slide is a Google map of the push pins of the 135 installations that we've done so far in Southern New Hampshire, with color codes that correspond to the size of the installation. All right, well, let's get rolling. So what is Harei? So first of all, we pronounce it Harei. It's the Hillsborough Area Renewable Energy Initiative, and we're a 501c charity, all volunteer. There's no sales. Over 14 years, helping neighbors with energy efficiency and solar. Things we do: analyze and improve your energy efficiency of your home or business. Help you understand heat pumps and hybrid hot water heaters and other new electrification components in your home. Help you determine if solar makes sense for your property, and help you evaluate either professional installer bids or understand how to install solar yourself. So you can understand all the pieces, the permits, rebates, anything else going on. And we are always looking to do more in terms of helping people achieve a net zero future for their property and their business. So Harei can help you install solar on your property. The pictures here are of some of the various activities that we take on. Small scale raiser, charitable projects at churches and food pantries, multi-family buildings in urban environments, as well as houses in more suburban environments, and large ground arrays. Harei is a great community of people that are all concerned and involved in energy efficiency, and it's a great way to make new friends, save money, learn new skills, and help save the planet, all while having fun. So Harei is known for our solar raisers. Solar raiser is like an old-fashioned barn raising, where we come together to put the panels up on a property or roof or a ground mount. We help with the DIY system installs. We're all volunteer. It's a neighbor helping neighbor, pay it forward organization. And we've been at this since 2012 with over 135 installations in southern New Hampshire and 6.8 gigawatt hours of cumulative energy generation at the end of last year. It's a pay it forward model, so we expect people that participate with Harei to help with other people's project, and in return, people help them with their project. We get great turnouts. It's not uncommon for us to turn out 12 to 25 people on a Saturday morning to put up a solar system in just a couple hours. So let's talk a little bit about solar in New Hampshire. Does solar make sense? We definitely think so. So let's debunk some of the solar myths that you'll hear out there about why solar might not work. And I think you might be surprised at how well solar works in New Hampshire. First myth: solar doesn't provide much energy. I mean, this is a myth. The Earth receives more energy in an hour than the world uses in an entire year. What does that mean for New Hampshire? What it means for New Hampshire is that most homeowners can offset their full electric usage with an array covering just half of their roof. So there's plenty of power in New Hampshire coming from the sun to help you with your electric usage. Another myth, solar isn't cost effective. Solar right now is the most cost effective energy generation form for new installations. Over 88% of new generation capacity, that's commercial as well as residential, including generators and utilities across the United States, was renewable energy in 2025. That's 70% solar, 18% wind, and the remaining 12% was almost entirely natural gas. Why is that? It's because it's the fastest and cheapest way to bring new capacity onto the grid. Pictures here show some innovative solar techniques, agrivoltaics, bringing farming and solar together. Sheep mowing the lawns under arrays, and solar can go in places where other generation can't go. Places like brown fields or old sand pits or landfills. It can even float on some of the hydro reservoirs to increase their generating capacity. Another myth is that solar isn't cost effective in New Hampshire. Solar is very cost effective in New Hampshire. In fact, it's more cost effective in New Hampshire than in Arizona. And you might wonder why. Well, Arizona does get more sun than we get here in New Hampshire. But actually, the cool temperatures we have lead to higher efficiency in the electronics in the panels here in New Hampshire than you have in a desert environment. And what really makes a difference is the cost of electricity. So the cost of electricity here in New Hampshire is, in New England, and all of New England is one of the highest regions in the country. And because of that, solar pays off more quickly because the value of the electricity you're generating is higher. Over the last 10 years, electric rates have risen by about 30%, while the cost of installing solar has dropped by about half. So it really is cost effective, and it's cost effective in New Hampshire. Another myth is that New Hampshire isn't solar friendly. You may have heard of some recent bills moving through the House that are trying to take away some of the things that make solar more attractive. Most of them aren't passing. New Hampshire, in fact, though, gets an A- rating from Let's Go Solar, which is better than a number of states you think that are very friendly to solar, like Hawaii, California, Arizona, Florida, and Nevada. The big things we have going for us is an excellent net metering program, which makes the value of the electricity that you generate on your roof or on your property available through the utility connection. There's a town-by-town exemption for the value of the solar assets on your property, so it doesn't affect your property taxes in almost all towns. And there's also a renewable energy certificate program that allows you to sell the certificates that are generated by producing green electricity back onto a market that generates revenue for you as a function of just producing your electric power. Another myth, and this is one that really is fading, is that solar lowers property values. That used to be a fear. And it was mostly caused because a lot of the early systems were lease systems rather than owned systems, which are problematic when you go to sell your house. But in general, an owned solar system on your roof or on your property is an in-demand feature for high-end homes. And multiple studies have shown that buyers are willing to pay more for houses with solar on them at about the rate that it costs to do a commercially installed system on your home. So, in fact, when you install solar on your home, you're not, reducing your net worth. You're just simply transferring some of your net worth into your property value. Hampshire towns reflect the increase in your house value in your appraisal, but the assessment, but the part of the assessments that due to solar is excluded when they calculate your tax rates based on that solar exemption. Another myth is that solar requires expensive batteries. Today's systems don't require batteries. Net metering, your grid connection, really acts as a giant battery. It lets you produce more energy than you can use in the daytime, and at night buy it back from the utility without a tremendous difference in price. Not much difference than the efficiency loss you'd have from putting it in a battery and taking it back out. Almost all of Harei's installs are grid tied. We've done a couple of off grids, but that's a totally different project, really. You really have to cut your electric usage before you can consider going fully off grid. Adding batteries for limited backup is something that we're seeing quite a bit of. About a quarter of our projects last year did include batteries. And that does significantly increase the price of the install. The most effective way to ensure backup power is still, a rollout gasoline generator. The batteries are very nice though, because they give instant switchover, so you almost don't know you're having a power failure. But they do significantly increase the cost of the installation. We are seeing a huge change in batteries over time though. Batteries are getting better. They're getting safer, they're getting cheaper, and we are seeing being included in more installations. We're also seeing utilities like Eversource providing a incentive program that'll pay up to $3,000 for the first 18 kilowatt hours of battery capacity that's installed. So we recommend that you make sure that your system installation is ready for batteries. Even if you don't put batteries in now, because it's quite likely that they will become economically viable if the utilities change to time of use rates or provide some incentives through demand charges for the power that can be used by the utility when they're at peak load times. Another myth is that solar is complicated. Solar is really, really simple. It's a proven, mature technology, been around for over 100 years, actually. Although the modern semiconductor solar panels we have now are more recent. It requires almost no maintenance. There's no moving parts, no motors, no pumps. There's no liquids that can boil or freeze or spill or leak. The systems last 25 to 40 years, and they're typically warranted for 20 to 25 years. The oldest grid-tied system in New Hampshire that's still operating was installed in 1993, and it's still producing 33 years later. There's some off-grid systems for things like cabin power and some of these communication systems that have been operating for over 40 years. The typical tools you need to do an installation are socket wrench and a drill driver. So this is stuff you can do. It's relatively simple, and it's very robust and very straightforward. Another myth is that solar isn't worth it. This is a new one for 2026. Solar isn't worth it without the tax credit. So the federal tax credit for solar was retired December 31st of 2025. So this is our first year where we don't have a federal incentive that directly reimburses you for part of the cost of your solar system on a residence in southern New Hampshire. But really, while that did change the math, the return on investment that you see with a solar install is still very strong. For a DIY solar install, a typical 10,000 kilowatt DC system, which is what we'll use kind of as a mock-up for some of these discussions, would cost you about $18,000 to install on a New Hampshire home. That's actually a very conservative estimate. It assumes that you're hiring some of the good bit of the work out, and about 80% of our projects fall under that value, some by as much as 40%. That value would be offset by your yearly savings and income. The savings are the savings on your electric bill, which comes directly off your electric bill. The income comes from selling the RECs, the renewable energy certificates, on the REC market. Together, those two things would generate for a typical 10,000 watt DC system about $2,860 a year. That would pay off the system about 6.3 years, which is a 15.8% return. Plus, you're getting protection from the volatility of electric rates, like we saw with the gas shock 4 years ago, where electric rates doubled for a year based on the price of natural gas. Where else can you get a 15% return and also help the planet at the same time? If you're worried about financing, probably the most effective way to finance is to do a home equity line of credit. If you are in a position where that doesn't work, there are green loans where the equity is the system itself. Those rates usually aren't quite as good, but they can allow you to effectively do a no money down solar install yourself without getting into a lease system. If you're looking at a commercial install for the same size system, typical bid rates fall around $3.50 a watt DC, so about $35,000 for a system like that. You'd still be seeing a return of about 8% on your investment, still pay off in about 12 years. So not a bad deal. Solar is definitely worth it, even without the tax credits. So, seeing as it makes sense in New Hampshire, how do you get there? There's really three paths. The first path is what we call a lease or a power purchase agreement, a PPA. These are attractive because there's no upfront cost, but there is a long-term contract that's usually bound to your property. You don't own the system. The company that installs it owns the system for the system lifetime. And they set up a contract that is intended to reduce the cost of your electricity based on your your electric bill. But there are systematic increases built into that and other things in that in terms of buyout clauses. We have not in the past found those very attractive. We're keeping our eyes open for 2026. And the reason we're keeping our eyes open is because the tax credit for that particular way of putting solar on the roof still exists. So it is possible for those installers to still take advantage of accelerated depreciation and tax credits in order to reduce their costs. So we're looking for installers who may be willing to pass those savings on to customers. But as of yet, we haven't seen very favorable contracts in the lease or PPA agreements. The next way is a professional solar installer. There's a number of excellent solar installers in New Hampshire. Usually when you do sign up for one of these, they'll come out, they'll look at the property, they'll make a proposal. It's a fully inclusive package with design, permits, materials, installation, setup, commissioning, and working with the utility to get it allowed and turned on. Again, a great way to go. So you should definitely get multiple bids and look at that if you're interested in going that way. Another way of doing it is DIY. And Harei's one of the things Harei can do is help you with that DIY model to make it a little less scary and give you the benefit of our experience in our neighbor helping neighbor model. When you do that, you invest sweat equity, both paying it forward, helping other people, as well as working on your own system. And by doing that, you can decrease your cost by 40 to 50% over a commercial install. You can also do a hybrid model. In a hybrid model, you're still acting as the prime contractor. You're doing the design, but you can sub out the roof work to contractors who are capable of putting up rails, and then come back and do the actual panel installation, hire an electrician to do the electrical work. We recommend that everyone work with an electrician, hire an electrician. That's the most common thing that we see people hiring onto their projects when they do a project with Harei. So if you're thinking about doing a professional installation, we still recommend that you check out the Harei website and look at the how-to steps. It will help you understand what the process is to get solar completed, to understand what the installer is actually talking about as they go through their proposal and their the steps and timeline that they're going to propose to you for getting the job done. We recommend that you get an energy audit. Contact newhampshiresaves.com on the webpage. They will help you understand the energy usage in your home and help you make things more efficient. It's always better to save energy than just produce more. Always more cost effective to get your energy under control first. You check out installers the same way you'd check out contractors for any other project. Get references, ask local people who they've used, make sure that people are happy with them. You can look for certifications from the Board of Certified Energy Practitioners, and definitely get multiple quotes. And when you get your quotes, you really want to compare the cost per watt DC that you're seeing. So they'll propose a system and they'll tell you how many watts DC they're going to put up, which is basically the size of the panels and in terms of generating capacity multiplied by the number of panels. And they'll also tell you an estimate of how much power, that's kilowatt hours or megawatt hours, it will produce during a year. Those two numbers help you figure out if this is going to be cost effective for you. We're typically seeing quotes come in between $3 and $4 a watt DC. We definitely recommend that you review the quotes with Harei. You can do that during our working meetings, or you can contact us on at info@harei.org. And we are happy to advise you on explain the differences between the different quotes and help advise you on the quality of the equipment they're bidding, the effectiveness of the panel layout, the costs, and the installer reputation if you're deciding between a couple that are close. So here is the roadmap to adding solar to your home, and these steps are the same whether a commercial installer is doing them for you or whether you're doing a do-it-yourself install. The first steps 1 through 4, are mostly computer and paperwork, and that can represent about 70% or more of the project timeline when you're doing this yourself. First is just determining whether solar is right for your property. You know, what's the shade like on your property? What are the roof lines like? Do you have a place for a ground mount? You know, what's it going to cost, and getting a ballpark idea of what a solar system will look like. The next step after you get through that and you decide you want to move forward is actually to go through a detailed design of the system for your home or business. That's where you get detailed measurements. You do a design, a panel layout. You look at the electronics and the wiring, and bring it all together to get the information you need in order to get the permits and also to buy the materials. After that, you apply for permits. The permits you need to apply for are both your utility interconnect permit with your utility provider, whether that's Eversource or Unitil or New Hampshire Co-op or Liberty. And then also you need your town building and electrical permits. And the cost of those will vary town to town, and the requirements will vary a little bit town to town. But these are things that Harei can help you with. And then finally, once you have that design in place and your permits are in place, you order the materials, and Harei can help you with that as well, getting you preferred pricing with distributors that we work with regularly. As I said, steps 1 through 4 are mostly paperwork, design, computer work, and Harei provides hands-on workshop to increase your confidence. And that really speeds up the front end of the process. We were seeing this part of the process take months. And if you go through the workshop series, you complete it in 4 weeks. So after you have your materials on site, that's when you really start the manual labor part of the project, the actual install. You're responsible for getting the site ready for a raiser. That means getting whatever racking or attachment systems installed. Getting the pre-wiring done, whether that's done by you or by your electrician, and then we do a raiser. And in the raiser, we bring on a number of volunteers. We'll help you scaffold the site and make sure that it's safe, and we'll get those panels up and mounted in just a few hours. From there, there's still a number of things that need to be done in terms of finishing inspections from your local inspector. commissioning the inverters, getting the second phase of the utility permit done for permission to operate from the utility, and then setting yourself up for any of the incentives like the renewable energy certificate sales. And after you have all that done, you're up and running and producing electricity. So let's say you are interested in doing a DIY with Harei. What are your next steps? Well, first, go to the Harei website. That's www.harei.org. And on there, you'll see a button to join Harei. That involves signing up for our email list, telling us what it is you're trying to accomplish, and by filling out a little survey. And there's a $40 membership fee that we use to pay our administrative and computer costs to keep the organization running. Next thing you do is get your annual electricity usage from your utility, so you know how much electricity you use and what you're trying to offset with your solar system. And then review the how-to pages on the Harei website. So we have those 6 steps laid out in detail with sub-documents that give you information. We also have a YouTube video page that goes through some of the front-end workshop information, as well as some of the how-to for rooftop operations, so you have an idea of what's entailed. Then really you want to attend a workshop, attend Razor as a great way to get hands-on and see how these things work, and attend our working meetings, which are on Tuesday nights, first and third Tuesdays of the month. And you really come up to speed, and we'll get you moving on a project pretty quickly. Last year, we were able to do 25 projects, and a number of them, started early in the year and finished by June. Some of them stretched out through the bulk of the year and finished by the end of the year. And I think the last one we started on December 7th and finished it by December 31st. So it can be done quickly if you have all your ducks in a line. But typically, we think you need about 3 months to do one of these projects. Harei has a number of resources to help you out and really energize your project and get it going. I mentioned the twice monthly working meetings. We have the how-to overview and guidance on the website. We have hands-on training through our solar razors, where you come on site and actually touch the materials, work with the tools, see how people have done this before and are experienced in various areas, bring these things together. And that is just invaluable for understanding your project. You want to do that as early and as often as you can. We have a list of professionals that we can refer you to get help with parts of your projects, whether that's carpenters or electricians or tree services. We have the small group workshops, which I mentioned, that can accelerate your design and permitting. We have members who work as mentors on individual projects, and we have subject matter experts who are expert in particular areas who can consult on various aspects of your projects or questions you may have about particular technologies or steps in the project. We have tools and equipment. We have a construction trailer, scaffolding, ladders, a ladder lift, torque wrenches, things for evaluating your solar potential, things for helping you find rafters, just a number of tools that are useful for getting the job done that we lend through the course of these projects, and help accelerate them without having to buy projects for or buy tools for each projects. And then we have our group buying power for materials. We have a team within Harei that works with our distributors and sends all these bill of materials out for bid, and works with the distributors to get preferred pricing for our members. So through those things, we really help make solar affordable and accessible to people in southern New Hampshire. So the takeaway from this information session is that solar does make sense. It makes sense in southern New Hampshire. It's affordable. It has a great return on investment, and you can do this with a little help from your friends at Harei. Everything we discussed today is on the Harei website. That's www.harei.org. And if you want to get started, you can send an email to info@harei.org. You can just come to one of our meetings, which are on the calendar, which you'll find on the webpage, or you can fill out the membership intake form and start with us that way. Any way you come to us, we're happy to help you get more solar on a roof, on your roof, and more solar in southern New Hampshire. So with that, I'll take any questions that we have from people in the group or in the audience.
Yeah. Hello. Can I ask a question?
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. You mentioned $3 to $4 per DC watt, if I have that correct, for professional install. Do you
Correct.
have a number of or a thought process of what that would be for a DIY ground install? Anywhere, any comparable type of number?
Well, commercial or DIY?
DIY.
Yeah. So when I was looking at the numbers recently, what I saw was that there's a number of ways to do the ground mount, and the price varies pretty widely between them. So there's some kind of kit level ground mount systems where you set them on the ground and anchor them with ground anchors. There's some that are pipe based, and they either require a poured concrete foundations and sonotube or ground screws. And if you do ground screws, those are generally done by a professional contractor, which can be a little pricey, but very quick. So ground mounts have a pretty wide variation on the price increase. But what we see with estimating price before we know anything about the job is we start with about $1.80 a watt for a DIY install roof mount. And I would add about 50 to 70 cents per watt for ground mount. Just to ballpark that. Still waiting for some cost data to come back on our 2025 projects. So we'll refine that number over time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hey, Chris, how's it going? Thanks for the awesome presentation. I'm new to solar. I was referred by a service provider in New Hampshire to check you guys out.
Okay.
I'm basically considering a pretty large off-grid system for a new build, and just wanted to see if you have any general advice or reaction. Basically the situation I have is, it would cost almost 80 to 100,000 to get it on the grid. So I figure, why not just get a robust system and not have to pay, ongoing for like the life of the house.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this a bit.
Yeah.
So I just have to admit up front that off-grid is not our wheelhouse. I think we've done 2 off-grid projects out of the 135. I do have one percolating right now for an island solar one, but it's not really our wheelhouse. So considerations for off-grid. First, the energy usage in a home. When you look at domestic, you have transportation, which is the car. You have your electric usage for things like cooking, lighting, electronics, things like that, a typical household usage. And then you have your energy for heating. And we're seeing a lot of that electrify. When you go off grid, you're really trying to cut down that electric part of this. So you might keep your heating on fossil fuel as something you'd want to do, for instance. Whereas on grid tied, we'd normally recommend moving that heating over to heat pump. But,
Yes.
The name of the game in off grid is that you want to be able to survive for about 95% of your days without having to run a generator, which means you have to design for near worst case, which is snow-covered panels,
Yep.
actually snow-covered panels, and limited whatever amount of battery you have. So,
Right.
which gets a little pricey. We usually think of battery costing about $7 per watt hour, or
Yep.
$700 per kilowatt hour. So, adding that back in, you really want to look at your usage. So you want to make sure your heat is out of the picture. You want to have things well insulated, so that's under control. You want
Yep.
to look at the energy efficiency of everything you do and how you can pare that back for worst case. And then when you look at your off-grid, you want to set up your off-grid so that, like I said, 95% of the time you can do it on your solar and your batteries, and that you've got
Right.
a generator system that you can kick in without any trouble. For that other 5% that's robust and really designed as part of the system.
Yeah, that's really great information. And my biggest concern is the winter, mostly because I wouldn't be there like as a primary residence. So,
Mhm.
I really appreciate the insight on just going fossil fuel for heat, because I'm a little bit worried about, the situation where, the system fails, or it's dark for many days, or the batteries are depleted and there's like a pipe freezing problem.
Yeah, well, when you get into this, you'll find there's a number of things to help you with those sorts of things, and there's a number of little details in trying to get your energy usage to stay within the confines of something that's reasonable to build and pay for. But
Yeah,
$100,000 build budget actually gives you a ton of room. You can,
that's what I figured.
yeah. So I
Yeah,
think it's a solvable problem.
yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Any other questions tonight?
Yeah, this is Brad. Last meeting, I told you guys, and I'm thinking of putting in a ground mount system,
Right.
which I'm starting to basically look at where I want to run my conduit from the panels to the house. When you guys do ground mount systems, does it require one conduit, two conduits, or and what size roughly?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brad. There's a conduit fill guideline from the NEC that determines the conduit size based on the fill and the size of the conductors. But we actually recommend that you upsize from that. So typically a 2-inch conduit for it's a domestic ground mount, something in the 10 to 15 kilowatt range will be sufficient.
Okay.
But you really do look at that as a function of understanding your conductor sizes and what you need to bring in that conduit. There's a couple different ways of bringing power back from a ground mount. You can bring it back DC, or you can bring it back AC. Usually it is just one conduit though, and there'll be a Cat 6 and the power cables in that conduit underground.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions tonight?
There is a comment in the chat.
All right, what do we have in the chat? This was from Richard. Okay, so he has quotes from Tesla and Revision Energy, but the cost was too high, and more importantly, could only offset maybe half of the energy use annually. I do a lot of things DIY and always thought to myself that it seems crazy to pay all the markup just to have solar installed, which is relatively straightforward. For this reason, I'm looking at installing a ground mount system. I started to use Open Solar, but would like guidance. Well, Richard, Open Solar is our primary design tool. And we set up a project area each year where we bring in the inverter and panel technology that our distributors are stocking or planning to stock for the year, so we understand the pricing and the quality of the different components up front in the design process. Then we use Open Solar to do the layout design, estimate the annual energy yield out of those systems, and then we export through a electronic method into an electrical design system that allows us to look at all of the conductors, switches, wiring, conductor sizes, the voltage drops, the losses, and things that would affect the power line spec that's required in order for the inverters to operate properly. And from there, we output directly drawings that go into permitting and the bill of materials for purchasing the equipment. So yeah, open solar is the way to go. And we have a workshop session specifically on that. We have YouTube videos that can bring you up to speed. If you search YouTube for Harei, you'll come across the workshop series, and sessions 1 and 2 are on doing the design in open solar to get a mock-up of what you want to do. But if you fill out the intake form or write to info@harei.com, we can set up a project for you in our Harei open solar project area. And that will give us the ability to run those tools I just talked about and help you through all those steps. So that's what I would recommend.
Harei.org.
Thank you, Jane. Any other questions? All right. Well, I think this has been a good meeting, and I appreciate all of you for coming out and listening. And solar definitely makes sense in New Hampshire, and it makes sense in 2026. So I look forward to working with any of you in the future if you have to decide to go solar, whether you decide to go through a commercial installer or DIY. So thank you for joining.
Thank you.
All right. Good night.